let's bring a third country into the discussion. We did the America, Iran, and let's bring Russia in. So supposedly, we put some sanctions on Russia. Supposedly, they don't care. They just made a multi-billion-dollar agreement with Islamic Republic of Iran, which we lifted all the sanctions from them. Wow, this gets complicated. And then Putin basically simply a few days ago decided he's just going to cut gas to Europe because he can. Well, I guess I'm really genuinely confused. Alex, what is going on?
That's a great question, and actually, the last time I was on this program with Jamie, we talked a little bit about this. I have a very unorthodox view of what's going on here, and I get a lot of pushback from the liberals, from the conservatives, from the communists, from everybody. But I believe that Putin is in bed with the one world order crowd. And I know when you first hear that, if you have not looked at the evidence, that sounds absolutely ridiculous. Putin is working with the Western globalists, with the deep staters, and I believe the evidence shows very clearly that he is. They're using, first of all, the same strategies. They're pursuing the same agenda, just in their own little spheres of influence. And so you have people like Henry Kissinger, people like Zbigniew Brzezinski, right, the movers and the shakers of the U.S. foreign policy establishment, openly saying that their objective on the road to getting a one world order is to build up these regional orders. And of course, Gorbachev was big on this as well. Right? This has been the strategy of the global predator class for at least a couple of generations now. Divide the world up into regional governments. The European Union is, of course, the premier example. But Putin is building the Eurasian Union. Right this moment as we speak, the U.S. government, the European Union, and the Communist Chinese government are imposing an African Union on the Africans. Right this moment as we speak, they're imposing a Union of South American states on the Latin Americans. And so all over the world, you have these regional governments being built. And Putin has been very, very explicit about his desire to form a Eurasian bloc that would basically bring together the former nations of the Soviet Union. And he said openly that he wants to eventually merge that with the European Union. So, the globalists know that conflict and war is the most successful vehicle they have at their disposal to bring about globalism, to move the cause forward. And it's not me who thinks that, it's them who say that. Right? In the early 1960s, Lincoln Bloomfield, a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, I call it deep state headquarters here in the United States, he did a paper for the U.S. State Department, for the Institute for Defense Analyses, and he explained that the paper was actually called, they gave it away in the title, A World Effectively Controlled by the United Nations. And so the paper was about how do we get from where we are to where we want to be. And he said the fastest way to do that is war, crises, and the threat of war. That's how you get people to give up their national sovereignty, to give up their self-government. And that is what we've seen in terms of their strategy over and over and over again, and we've seen how effective it is. Right after World War I, they built the League of Nations, right, and they completely restructured society. They undermined the family. They got American children trapped in these government brainwash camps, masquerading as schools. Completely restructured everything. Now, the U.S. Senate was a big obstacle. They said, we're not going to participate in your League of Nations. All right, back to the drawing board, right? Then you get World War II. What comes out of World War II? Well, the United Abominations. Then we had the World Bank. We had the International Monetary Fund, the whole Bretton Woods architecture, right? And so what would be the next best step to bring about a further erosion of national sovereignty, to bring about a shift in public attitudes, in the building blocks of civilization? Well, another major war. And so Putin comes in and he goes and invades Ukraine. Now, I'm not denying that there are geopolitical considerations at work in the Kremlin, things like that. And superficially, those seem to make sense. But when you put it all together and you realize Putin and Kissinger are little buddies, right? Kissinger goes to Moscow and he goes to eat at the private residence of Putin. Putin comes to New York. He goes to eat at Henry Kissinger's house. These people are like two peas in a pod. Putin actually talks about this in his autobiography, how Kissinger is one of his mentors. Right? So when you put all this evidence together, I think, to me at least, it seems very clear that Putin is working toward the same overall objective as the treasonous fifth column in our country is working toward, and that is the destruction of the United States as the global superpower, the destruction of the United States as a free society, and the reshaping of the world order to become a multipolar world order. I first started exposing this in 2014, and I think every day that passes provides more evidence that my hypothesis here is correct. Is it possible that I'm wrong? Is it possible that Putin has betrayed these people? Yes, that's possible. Do I think it's likely? No.